posted. We're good to go. All right, and I'm here. I'm your host, Everett Heath. As always, going through all this news bullshit, and we got Jeremy here.
Nice to meet everyone. I'm a business major at San Diego State University, remote for now, obviously, and I'm a concerned citizen, and I'm glad to be here.
Awesome. And we got two people on Discord with us. We got Jason and Matt. If you guys wouldn't want to introduce yourselves really quick.
Hi, my name's Jason Garshfield. I am a citizen of Southern California, and I have been speaking out about lockdowns nonstop for a better part of a year now. I've written some pieces about that too. You can check them out in Town Hall, Real Clear Politics. I've written a fair amount on Medium's Jason Garshfield, Garsh Field.
Yeah, awesome. All right, and Matt, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
He's back. All right, yeah. Dude, yeah, we can hear you.
All right, what's up? I'm Dyson Draft. I'd also say I'm a concerned citizen. I'm going to law school right now, so I don't have a lot of things under my belt, but
Nice.
I'm just here to add a more everyday perspective to what we're going to be going over.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's really what
Law
we need
school.
here.
That's awesome.
Yeah, but anyways, I'm just saying too much like I always do. But happy New Year's, everybody, and we're gonna be getting right into all this lockdown stuff. We're probably going to be cussing a lot because honestly, this stuff makes me really mad. It makes me really livid, especially after all of the stuff we went through on our last episode. I showed you guys, the science of COVID, and basically what we concluded there was COVID is not worse than the seasonal flu, at least for younger populations and for populations that aren't in the affected groups. And lockdowns do not work in America. They may work other places, in more tyrannical places, but they will never work here in America because of our free spirit. Basically, those were the two main points that we did for our last video. If you guys want to get a full rundown of the science of COVID, go back and watch that one. But on this one, we're going to be having a discussion. It's going to be more emotional, more just news and whatnot of what's going on with lockdowns and what's happening. So we really wanted to share with you a couple of these stories that really just break my heart, and it's wrong what's happening. And I said this on the last one, but really lockdowns, what we're going through, is one of the biggest human rights violations, or it is the human rights violation of our time, and we have to do everything in our power to stop what's going on here. And I said this in the last episode too, but COVID is dangerous, but we should never give up our rights for any emergency ever. I don't care if it's Ebola. I don't care if it's a goddamn world war. We don't give up our rights because we're human beings, and we have human rights. And you have to stand up for them. You have to draw a line on these tyrants that want to take them away. But
And that's something which historically the American left has been good on, at least when I was a kid, and it was the Iraq War. And there's something that stuck out in my mind for a while, and that's when the Boston bomber was caught, and they temporarily withheld his Miranda rights in the name of public emergency. The ACLU released an excellent statement. You can go check it out, saying that the Miranda right exception should be interpreted narrowly, and even in times of public crisis, we should not abandon our principles. That was something I heard again and again from the left for a decade under George Bush.
Yep.
And now they've totally abandoned that. So any future fascist dictator, all you need to do is come up with a bad flu season.
Exactly, and that's their excuse that they're going to use. But
Yeah.
So yeah, let's get into these links here. So the first one we got is from our Jason here, and it's title on it is actually, is this the one, the tablet one? Yeah,
Yes.
okay. So, and it's basically talking about how China put out all this propaganda on COVID. And did you want to go over that a little bit, Jason? Like the main points of the first one here?
Yeah, basically, so the guy traces it back on Twitter, and apparently there were a lot of Chinese propaganda accounts pushing this.
Mm-hmm.
It's basically like what the Democrats say about Trump and Russian propaganda. So there was no Russian collusion, there was Russian interference. The Russians did have this sort of disinformation propaganda campaign on social media. Some of it's a bit stupid, but
yeah,
everything that the Democrats were afraid of is being done with China. Like, they were pushing this lockdown narrative very early on. And I think, so the last paragraph of that one, the last paragraph of this article is the really chilling one.
Yeah.
Because he
Okay, let's put it
says,
up.
he says the most benign explanation for the CCC's propaganda campaign is the party aggressively promoted the same lie internationally as domestically, that lockdowns worked. So it was they're just trying to cover their asses. But then this last part is scary. And then there's the possibility that by shutting down the world, Xi Jinping, who vaulted through the ranks of the party, quotes ancient Chinese scholars, has mastered debts and derivatives, studies complexity science, and envisions a socialist future with China at its center, knew exactly what he was doing.
Yeah, that's I would say he knew exactly what he was doing with all this. They jumped on an emergency that really wasn't an emergency that much, and they blew it up into massive proportions. And there was just one thing I wanted to go over really quick. So they used this to lock over 57 million people in their homes. 57 million people. And we saw these videos coming out of Wuhan, out of, Hubei residents. They were, throwing people on the ground in the streets, that didn't have a mask on, and, throwing them, in jail. We don't know what happened to them, honestly. We don't know what happens in China for the most part. We saw people or officials barring people's doors to their houses, so people literally couldn't leave their house. They were barred in by these tyrants, and it says here at the time, human rights observers expressed concerns, and I would be very concerned about being barred in my house. But as one expert told the New York Times, the shutdown would almost certainly lead to human rights violations and would be patently unconstitutional in the United States, and that's very true. And it's good that we have the Constitution here to prevent the government from doing some of this stuff, but there's only so much that we can do before the tyrants and the people who want power, want to step on us. We really have to push back on all of it. And if we give an inch, they will take a mile. So...
Well, it's the people who have to defend the Constitution, obviously. So when you look at how divided we are, it's not very likely that there's going to be such a concentrated effort to do so.
Yeah, definitely. And is there anything else you wanted to bring up in that, Jason?
This didn't make it into that piece, but there's another link which I probably should have shared, and this one's the really scary one, and it's an interview with the Times, the British paper, and Dr. Neil Ferguson, who you probably already know. I mean, he was the guy who published the faulty alarmist Imperial College London study, then got caught sneaking out to see his mistress. But
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, real charming guy. And that next link shows how Imperial College has links with China as well. But so Neil Ferguson was speaking to the Times in London, and his precise words were, "We didn't think we could get away with lockdown in the West modeled after China until Italy did it, and
they
we
did.
realized we could."
Yep.
He literally said, "We didn't think we could get away with it."
Actually, I think I have one of the BBC link talks about that, I think. But there. Okay, so we'll move on to the next one, because the next one's the big long one that you sent me. So there was a couple points in this that stood out. I'm just waiting for it to load in. But what were the main things that you took out of this big one from the CCP global lockdown fraud?
Yeah, this is a letter on Medium, the Chinese Communist Party's global lockdown fraud. It's very long, it's hard to summarize, but this is a group of people, including Michael Singer, the author of the tablet piece, and he speaks in some detail. He traces back the impetus for lockdowns to China, and that's an important thing. This is not something that has antecedent in the 1918 flu. There was nothing on this level in 1918. There were some closures, some cities canceled large events, some cities had mask mandates, but this in locking entire populations in their houses has, including the healthy, not just the sick or the potentially sick, but healthy people, everyone within population. This has no precedent in the West. So this kind of traces things back to China, and it's pretty clearly, I don't want to say conspiracy, because our leaders were not conspiring directly with China, but there was a concerted push by China to deceive the West. Whether that's a conspiracy or not can rest on its own merits, but I encourage everyone to read this and make up their own mind.
Yeah. I mean, it says here, you know, one of their first points is lockdowns originated on the order of Xi Jinping, General Secretary of the Chinese Communist Party, and were propagated into global policy by the World Health Organization with little analysis or logic. So they literally did this just based on this flawed data out of China. Why I don't understand why we trusted China in the first place. They have been untrustable.
When have they proven trustworthy?
When? I don't understand. The WHO went all along with it. And this is why all these conspiracy theories arise, you know, because there's like, you know, you look at this and you're like, how did we get so enveloped in something that's so untrustworthy and so theoretical, you know? It's mind-blowing, really, you know? But anyways, it's a big, long letter that they wrote. They put up a lot of more points in this, but it's definitely something worth, you know, reading through. It's pretty long. But yeah, anyways, we'll go to the next censorship from China. This is more basic things. So China and COVID-19, how state media and censorship took on coronavirus. So basically, just as an intro, China doesn't have YouTube, they don't have Facebook, they don't have Twitter. It's all censored, basically. And when this stuff started, you know, coming out, as you can see, early attempts to shift blame amid unprecedented online anger. You know, a lot of Chinese people and citizens were angry at their government that they were hiding this when it first came out, because obviously it talks about in this article too how the doctor that first came out with it and first started talking about it, he was actually he died a couple weeks, I think it was February 20th or whatnot. He died, you know, unknown reasons, for probably taken out by the Chinese Communist Party because it made them look bad. But basically, a lot of Chinese citizens were mad, they were pissed off, and China has censors, but the censors weren't able to get to all of the anti-government rhetoric that was going out on the internet. So it literally took, the censors had to catch up with all of the speech that was happening. You know, and these really brave people in China, I don't, like, if I was in China, it's pretty rough over there for anybody liberty-minded. But for people who are actually speaking out against their government in China, like, props to them, dude. They are the bravest people on the planet right now, other than maybe like people that speak out in North Korea or something. But
oh man, and speaking of North Korea, that was one of the things. Jordan Peterson's daughter Michaela had Yeonmi Park, a North Korean defector, on her podcast, and this young woman was speaking about how in North Korea you've got 30 acceptable haircuts, and she said that's exactly what it's like now with the masks. Masks and limits on numbers of people you can put in your business. When there's that level of control over the minutia of life, which the left constantly says it's just a mask, it is the minutia of life, and that's what makes it sinister. As Tocqueville explained in Democracy on America, when there's that level of control, that's when we leave behind the American system.
Right.
Yeah, definitely. And just going over. Oh, what up? How's it going, Chris? Hey, we got another podcaster here with us.
Feel free to sit down.
Yeah,
right here.
come through.
Oh shit, yo casi got a cat.
Quick intro for our boy Chris over here who just got in. Hey,
Is that start from here? What?
huh? Yeah, we're live right now, so if you wanna do a little intro, yeah.
Just introduce yourself.
Yeah.
I thought that was the camera. Hey, what's up, guys? My name is Chris. With these gentlemen today, Cerebral Spice Rack, and all.
Yeah. So you got an additional guy to talk about all this crap going on. But anyways, we're getting back to this source here. Just giving some proof. So Li Wenliang has become known internationally as the whistleblower doctor who tried to warn colleagues about the SARS-like virus, and out of nowhere, he died on February 7th after it came to light that he had been investigated for disturbing social order by making false comments. So this is what they do.
Yep.
The CCP, they disappear people. If you go against them, they will kill you. They will literally kill you, especially if it's something like this. It's just nasty what they've done. Basically, the same thing's happening to journalists that tried to bring this up. It's good for the journalists that actually got out of there before all of this clampdown started. But it's good that they actually brought stuff up, and all these journalists getting out of there, because they really tried to cover this all up, and they tried to, like Jason was saying, they're trying to use it in order to push their propaganda, their communistic style on the rest of the world with these lockdowns. That's really the goal here, basically. But I think that's all I really wanted to say in this, other than, you know, young people really suffering over there. You know, they really don't have a voice. There's a lot of people. So this is another thing. Many students returned to physical classroom for the first time, but protests erupted at campuses across the country to universities, rationing internet and showering times due to the sudden overcapacity. So it's like if that happened here, you know how mad college students would be if the college or the state shut down their like showering permission. Like what? Like, is this where we're going? Like,
I'm not sure about that. I think students have accepted a great many indignities, and not only that, but celebrated them.
yeah,
I mean, during my entire time in college, 2012 to 2016, UCSB students were very quick to protest for less freedom, and it seems like it's only gotten worse in the 5 years since.
yeah. It's really just well, it's because the institution, the educational system, is completely controlled by, you know, one section of society, you know, leftist progressives. You know, I've never met a single, you know, conservative professor or really a staff member my whole time at university. The closest I got was a moderate kind of libertarian type, but he was definitely more on the left. So they have a stranglehold on everything, and they want to push authoritarian measures like this, and they don't care how they do it. They just want power. Anyway, that's just, you know, my opinion, but we're gonna go. Let's keep going on this here. So basically, and then the censorship got over here to the west. So as you guys heard on the last one, if you guys watched the last one, I brought up this study by Dr. Briand. She did a talk that was titled "COVID-19 Deaths: A Look at U.S. Data," and basically it was published in the Johns Hopkins newsletter.
Okay.
And it was real data. She used real data here, but the thing with it was, it started being spread around by people who used it as misinformation, even though it wasn't misinformation. It just wasn't the best data to look at, because as I said in the last one, it looked at age demographic discrepancies of death from year to year, and found that there was no big discrepancy from total death per age group from year to year, from 2019 to 2020. But basically it got banned. And you can't even, we can't even go look at the letter on Facebook, because we would get insta-zucked right now if we even went to look at it, because you can't even post it. It gets insta-blocked. Mm-hmm. And it's not bad data. It's just, it's not the best data is what I can say. And basically the main thing I wanted to bring up here is the importance of academic freedom. We do not have the free speech simply to talk about the weather. We have it so we can talk about very controversial things like abolition of slavery, a woman's right to vote, a gay person's right to equality, a black person's right to sit in the same place as a white person. If we don't have the right to talk about uncomfortable things, then we don't have a right to talk about anything, basically. So, and this was real data. This isn't like lies. This wasn't like fake news like some shit is, even though that shouldn't be censored either. It was literal science, and they blocked it. But I don't know. What do you guys think about that? Like, did you guys hear about the Dr. Briand, this article that got blocked on Facebook and other social media sites?
I did not hear about this specific one, but it does not surprise me whatsoever.
Yeah.
I haven't heard about this in particular, but to kind of touch up on your previous section, I wanted to add that Western academia has been severely infiltrated by Marxist influence, right? And that isn't, I guess, of any surprise to the people in this room.
No, it's true. But anyways, I think that's basically the only thing I wanted to bring up there. Did you have anything to add, Jason, on that? Just the importance of...
Well, I know that there was another study which was treated similarly, and it was entitled "Why Face Masks Don't Work: A Revealing Review." This one was like 2017. It was by a group of dentists.
Okay.
And you can Google it, "Why Face Masks Don't Work," and you'll see some page. This study has been taken down. It may lead to the spread of misinformation.
That's
With
their
this,
favorite word.
I think fundamentally what's going on is that the elites in our society have abandoned the logic of the marketplace of ideas.
Yep.
I've posted about this a bit before. Because they reject the fundamental premise that people, when given the choice, can tell the truth from a lie, and they're doing this because they, in the last few years, have been losing in the marketplace of ideas. So rather than questioning themselves, they have come to see a world in which conservative lies have a mystical, inexorable power, and they're
Doesn't put
legislating
much
back
faith in
from
the
back.
human mind at all.
No.
Yeah, I don't necessarily agree with the people be able to choose the truth just because, like, you know, people like Goebbels with the big lie have come out and been able to convince a bunch of people. But I'm saying if we censor these people, that makes their point more valid. I think.
Powerful.
It makes
those people that have counter beliefs, it makes them want to hide it and allow it to fester rather than to have the ability to be proven wrong.
Yeah. Well, it really makes them martyrs in the public discussion because, you know, it's like what happened to Alex Jones. He got banned and his website and everything blew up. You know, he's getting more, you know, views than ever whenever he goes on any show now. Like, there's, you know, millions of views on it.
That was 2 years ago when they did that to him. Right? 2018.
Yeah. First they came for Alex Jones, then they came for us.
This sort of reminds me of the housewives in the 80s who try so hard to, like, get rid of their children's, like, rock music. Like, it only made them want to listen to it more.
Exactly. It's like anything, like weed, you know, you ban weed and people are going to want to smoke weed more, you know.
The scariest thing about somebody like Alex Jones being banned, you know, despite the fact that I might not agree with absolutely everything that he says, it should become very evident that a lot of the big tech corporations are quite literally conspiring together to do that. They did that all within a very short time.
Just like tonight, I believe they're trying to do with Parler, right?
Yeah. Do you think they just decided to coincidentally do that all of a sudden?
No.
Just all three of them?
No. But, yeah, anyways, on the censorship stuff, we're definitely going to have a whole episode on all this censorship and all this just civil unrest that's going on. But I just wanted to give you guys a little idea. The censorship is here, and it came from China. That's literally what happened here. So I want to just go over this real quick. It's a New York Times article where they basically say, we went over this study too, where I showed you guys that the virus was here in December, and basically the New York Times picked up this fringe, or not fringe guy, he's an actual epidemiologist, but he says that I don't think the study by et al. Can be taken as evidence that COVID was circulating in the U.S. in December, and they contradict themselves in their own article because they say that at least two, or let's see what. So one of these samples showed very effective neutralization, Dr. Sharma said, and another sample showed a reaction to a part of the spike protein that is very specific to SARS-CoV-2. So for two samples at least, we believe they probably represent true infection. So they contradict themselves in the same article. They said it wasn't here in December, yet it was here in December, because we can look, the people at Red Cross, they were using the specific COVID, the specific virus to look for these in those blood samples. And you guys can go back and look at the video on that. But basically, the New York Times is just, this is misinformation right here. Because if people had the virus in December, then it was spreading. Because you guys can go back and look at the old video. COVID's very virulent, especially with these new strains. They're very virulent. They get into your body a lot easier. They spread a lot easier. And if there was only one case here in December, that's the start of an exponential graph going upward. So they call us misinformation when they contradict themselves in their own article. So just the mainstream media is just complete horseshit.
I don't put too much faith in the New York Times.
No, exactly. But it's just, I just want to show you guys that because they literally contradict themselves in the same article. And you guys can go back and look at the actual study that we looked at and went over, showing that they tested for the virus back in December and found 100 people out of 7,000 people had the specific antibodies. You know, and that article is basically saying, you know, 2 of them were for sure. But even if there were 2, that means it was still here. So I don't like that is just such crap. But and
we've all had it by now.
Yeah, but we'll just skip by this. Next one that I wanted to get to here was basically these guys did a full report, a 30-page report basically on how all COVID news is bad. It hasn't been peer-reviewed yet, but they basically did a study where they found that 91% of stories by U.S. major media outlets are negative in tone versus 54% of non-U.S. major media sources and 65% for scientific journals. So basically our media is just they're pumping out just complete negativity about COVID.
Right.
If you guys saw the last episode, you know, COVID's a serious thing for older people, but really us younger folks should not be worried about it. It's basically the same as the flu for us. And that's some good news. Other good news, the vaccine works. The vaccine works against multiple strains of the virus. So I don't understand why we don't have more good news about this, because obviously they're trying to form a narrative and they're trying to make people afraid. And that was my whole point with the last episode. They're just trying to fucking put out all this propaganda to make people afraid when they don't have to be. But
I mean, do you think that all the negative propaganda is going to slow the spread of the virus? Because I do.
I don't think so, because when you get people locked up in their houses, they're still going out for essential activities. They're not getting the exercise, they're not getting sun, they're not getting the things they need for their immune system to be fully functional. And there was some new data out that showed that that viral loads were very low in some people, especially the asymptomatic people, that kept going out and whatnot. So I think lockdowns indirectly cause more COVID death because you're congregating people in the houses more. You're not letting them out as much, and or they're more afraid to go out, so they're more afraid to get exercise, to get the sunlight that they need. Their immune system needs to fight off an easy cold virus like COVID, especially for younger people. Maybe not so much so for older people, but as younger people can definitely deal with it. I think a lot more people that shouldn't have died are dying now because of the lockdowns from COVID and a lot of other causes. You guys can go back to the last video. I'm going to keep saying this, but we went over the CDC findings where the death of the year, it spiked right after lockdowns. And if COVID was here in December, we should have seen the spike, or not the spike, but we should have seen the gradual increase from December. And we don't see that. We see a spike right after lockdowns hit. So,
and I feel like I've been, like when I go to the market or something, ever since these restrictions have been in place, I feel like I've been in way longer lines than ever before, and that's not good being next to all those people just waiting in line to get into Trader Joe's. Like, there has to be some people who have contracted the virus just by waiting in line.
Yeah, I think that's where most people are getting it, because like there are a lot of studies been going out that it's really unlikely to get this thing in like a hair salon or what was the other place? Restaurants, indoor dining. They found that only 1% to 2% of cases in New York were coming from restaurants, people going into restaurants. So it's just complete bullshit that, you know, well, not complete bullshit, but you can make a very strong argument that lockdowns do a lot more harm than good in terms of COVID and in terms of everything else, mainly for America. Go ahead, Matt.
Sorry, just to stay on the point on our media coverage being negative, I mean, you know, if it leads, it leads. What do you think's getting more people viewing these places? Someone a good article about COVID or a bad article? So it's like, I don't think everything's necessarily agenda based, but to get views, having a pandemic and having a big alert, like you're gonna get a lot of people interested and get a lot more money for whatever website you're producing.
Yeah. I think this is a problem that goes much further than just COVID. I think our media is obsessed with negative stories. They thrive off it and they profit off of it, and it makes the U.S. such a worse place to live in because all these negative stories make people angry at each other. And you see this in life, you see this on social media, people just throwing shit at each other when we really don't have to. We just have to discuss, and the media is making that so much harder.
Fear keeps people docile.
Exactly.
It's easier to control.
Keeps you afraid, keeps you
when you have the masses docile, it's easier to get them to believe that you need. There's a necessity for government solution to fix a dysfunctional private sector, right? So that's why so many people are starting to give advent to kind of a rise in power of the state. They want to see solution more from the state rather than private sector.
Yeah,
because a lot of people are mistakenly believing that it's the private sector that's failing them. And you guys have heard of Keynesian economics?
Keynesian. Maybe once or twice.
I'm not happy with the billionaire class though either. It seems like these guys like Bezos, it seems like they're playing into a system which knocks out all their small business competitors. You know, what we have right now is not a free market.
No, it's corporate market. Dude, they're just trying to shove everybody else out. If you have the power and will in the government to put your crap through, or if you have people in the government to do that for you, then they're going to take advantage of it. And the only people doing that are the top elites. You know, you're not going to get some small, you know, mom and pop shop lobbying the government for fucking subsidies. That's never gonna happen. You're gonna have
they
these.
They do. They just don't get it. All
Oh
the
yeah,
small
of course.
go to the big businesses.
Yep, of course. But anyways, you guys have anything else to add on just the negative view of all the COVID news? I think we'll move on. All right, and so we're gonna start getting into the lockdowns and tyranny here at home, and just to start that off. So obviously, you guys all know we got a text here back in it was December that we all got a text here on our phone.
Yeah.
Where's the picture of it? Oh, here it is. So we all got this text: state of CA, new public health stay-at-home order in your area. COVID-19 spreading rapidly. Stay at home except for essential activity. Wear a mask. Keep your distance.
Classic.
And this is just fucking propaganda, dude. Stay-at-home order. They have no right to do this. We're fucking Americans with the Constitution. They have no right to fucking lock us in our homes. And it's good to see a lot of people having so much civil disobedience here.
Yeah.
But this, anyways, to start with lockdown started back in March. They've been going on, nonstop basically. You closed all non-essential businesses, movie theaters, bars, everything that people get their, enjoyment and fulfillment out of life through. And you close it all.
Everything that makes life worth living.
Exactly, and you close it all, and we'll eventually get into the mental health effects. But it's disgusting what happened, and what they're doing, especially with this text, with how they put this out, and it just makes people afraid. When you get this text and it's emergency alert on your phone, you're fucking afraid. Like, I got it, and obviously I'm in this shit. Like, I know the information. I was just like, it's fucking bullshit what they're doing. Like,
yeah, it just buzzes even if your phone is on silent.
Yeah.
Emergency alert.
At the most, it should be a suggestion. It should be a suggestion. There should be no stay-at-home order. This is it's fully unconstitutional, and anybody enforcing these orders are oath breakers and need to be charged fucking under the Constitution, because we have rights here.
Good ideas don't need to be backed by force.
Exactly.
People think if it's valid to do, people will do it.
Mm-hmm. What you have to say, Matt?
What do you think about the notion that our freedom should expand as far until they infringe on the rights of other people's freedom?
Well, of course, that's the whole notion of freedom. As long as you're not hurting anybody else, you should be free to do whatever you want to do.
So
there's a limit to the
here,
degree
people
to
are
which-
making the argument that
It's non-aggression principle.
by spreading COVID, you're harming someone else.
Yeah, what about the flu? What about
There's
Ebola?
a
What about
limit
every
to-
other
That's just a
virus
bunch of
here?
manipulative
Any
guilt.
individual has the right to expect to be free of infectious disease.
Yeah,
If
there's
you're- somebody comes
Exactly.
to the office with a cold. You get a cold. That's bad enough. A cold is probably as bad as being punched in the face. You lose a week of your life. You lose a week off work. Your quality of life is significantly diminished. You might miss a vacation. You might have to take days off that would cost you money. So there's a limit to the degree to which an individual has the right to expect to be free of infectious disease.
Yeah,
I say if somebody knowingly or recklessly or
Yeah,
carelessly
yeah.
commits
Obviously.
disease, there's no reason why any individual who is not sick, who has not knowingly been in contact with a sick person, who might have even had the disease before, who has no reason to believe they're sick, and perhaps good reason to believe they're not sick, should have their movement restricted.
Mm-hmm.
That's contrary.
It's-
Quarantine has always been there. When my grandma was a kid, they put the big red sign on the door, quarantine, and that's been a power of government. It
And
should be
that's it.
interpreted narrowly, but to apply it to healthy people as opposed to sick people is a very big line, and I don't know if there's coming back from it if we accept that.
Yeah.
It's just hard with the asymptomatic information out there, where
Well, yeah,
a lot
well-
of people are asymptomatic and you don't know either way.
The World Health
They're not getting
Organization,
tested.
Mm-hmm.
they've actually made that a lot more difficult for the general public to discern what's a courteous or proper precaution to be taking as a private citizen. Like, if you haven't noticed, the World Health Organization has propagated information that has quite literally contradicted itself time and time again.
Yep.
Right.
Masks
And a lot of
work, masks
people
don't work.
think
Lockdowns work.
that
lockdowns don't
dude,
work.
what's his name, Tedros, that runs the World Health Organization, I think he actually has the interest
Indian
of the
dude?
people.
Well, I've been
Yeah.
following a blog by Esquire Richard Jaffa. He's been litigating on the UC lawsuit, like the mandatory flu shot lawsuit.
Oh,
And he said it
yeah.
was so hard to argue with the judge's logic, because I forget what the judge's name was.
Mhm.
But he said he compared a student sitting in a UC classroom who's unvaccinated to someone getting in the car with a drunk driver. That's sort of the logic that people at the top are using to fear
Yeah,
monger.
well, that logic would involve either banning all drivers or putting an ignition interlock device.
Yep.
I hate this drunk driver shit.
Yep.
If that-
Yep.
Stopping a knowingly drunk driver from driving is the same as stopping a knowingly sick person from infecting someone. This is the same as either banning all driving or putting an ignition interlock device
Yep.
in cars, which
Exactly.
probably would save lives too. We could save lives by putting an ignition interlock device in every car.
Right.
And if you took this sort of sneering, dismissive, oh, who cares about freedom attitude that we've taken with masks, lives are more important than freedom. There's, once you take that attitude, there's no going back.
It's a rabbit hole for sure.
Every element of life could be is fair game.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, what if like they made everybody put seatbelts in cars? It's like it should be my right to not wear a seatbelt. It doesn't mean, I mean, it'd probably save lives, but
Well,
to implement something like that, it's
Seatbelts
against
are
our freedom.
mandatory. I don't think they
I'm being
should.
I think he's
sarcastic.
Well, see,
trying
but
to
the-
be sarcastic.
Oh, that's a whole another thing. Because seatbelts, the goddamn automobile companies, they did it themselves. There was no regulation that made seatbelts go into cars. Like you go back, you look up this history. The automobile companies, they were competing, and they wanted to become the safest automobile company on the market. So they automatically made themselves more safer. And you can go all the way back to like Henry Ford on some of his stuff on this.
I mean, it's a matter of liability. They don't want to be held liable.
Yeah.
So the private industry decides we're going to implement
Yeah.
seatbelts in our cars.
Yeah.
Not related.
Yeah, but yeah, you guys can go look up the history. The government only mandated seatbelts after all of the automobile manufacturers had seatbelts in their cars, so there was literally no point to it. So,
It
anyways,
was revenue collection, probably.
yeah,
I mean,
that's all it is.
There was a picture I saw on Facebook a while back of a police department in Oklahoma. Congratulations to Officer So and So for giving the most seatbelt citations.
It's just
If
fucking.
that's,
It's just
if that's not a world you don't want to live in, then don't support mask mandates.
exactly, dude. Well, I think private businesses can mandate mask wearing in their own business, but as far as the government
Oh, yeah.
mandating
I have no
a mask
problem
mandate,
with putting on a mask when I go into Walmart.
Yeah.
Because I don't have
Yeah.
a right to shop at Walmart. That's the
yeah,
difference.
exactly.
When you say,
Privilege.
they're violating my rights by making me put a mask on. No, you don't have the right to shop at Walmart. You have the right to walk outside of your house,
Mhm.
but you don't have the right to shop in a private industry. So if that's their rule, just like you have to wear a shirt, that's what you have to do. But when it comes to just going to the park or something simple like that, it's not a valid argument.
Yeah. But anyways, let's.
It's not a free market decision, though. These companies aren't acting within the free market. I mean, they
No.
are responding to market forces, but they're responding primarily to the mandate of government. So honestly,
Exactly.
I don't wear a mask unless I'm told, and even then I try not to.
Yeah.
I don't want to normalize face covering in the West.
It's-
I mean, I won't die rather than wear a mask, but I don't want to normalize face covering.
Yeah.
The face is
Sharia
the
law.
center of human expression.
Yeah.
When we cover it up, we dehumanize.
Right.
The individuation is well established in the academic literature.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's why
I'm
the
not
fake
against.
Antifa wear masks.
Yeah, I'm not for mandatory making people do it, but I think if it is preventative, I think that that you should do that.
hmm Yeah, just as like a precaution,
Compelled
you
to
know.
do that. I don't think you should make people like do the right
Yeah.
thing. But
Free will
you
is
should still
beautiful.
do the right
Mhm.
thing.
I love free will.
For a
Mhm.
sick person, perhaps. I don't know about a healthy person, and here's the thing: I don't think I've had it. I haven't been antibody tested, but if I had the
I
virus,
think you probably
and
have.
and then I get an antibody test, I know for a fact that I'm not a danger to anyone else. I will not have an exception to the mask mandate.
hmm
So even if you have good reasons to believe you're not a danger, it still applies to you. So if I don't know, maybe we should. I don't want to go there. I don't want this sort of major social change to be foisted on us.
Yeah.
And covering one's face in public is a major social change. Maybe it should be a matter of politeness that if you're feeling sick, you wear
Yeah.
a mask, or at least you don't come close to others.
It should have
Well-
been like that even prior to a pandemic.
Well, yeah. Well, see, I like even me. Like, I got the flu a couple times, like bad flu back in college. I wear a mask to class. People would give me looks.
Don't sneeze on people,
It's
don't cough on people.
like the whole mask thing has been so politicized. It's just, I think you should wear a mask if you want to wear a mask. If
I
you don't want to
always-
wear a mask, you shouldn't wear a mask.
I always love watching
It's as simple as
someone
that.
driving around in their car wearing a mask.
Oh my
That's
yeah,
my
all
favorite.
alone, just
Yeah.
all the windows rolled up. Like, who are you afraid of?
I'm gonna get myself sick.
Oh god. All right, well let's keep moving along here because we got some real shit to get through.
Oh, the
So
French
basically,
laundry, or-
Oh man. So this isn't not into the serious shit yet, but basically these governors, these mayors, they put out all of their own, mandates on this stuff, and they're breaking them. And we'll, let's go down. I think Gavin Newsom is one of the first big ones on here. But all you guys heard about this. California Governor Newsom apologized last month after being photographed at an upmarket restaurant in Napa Valley with a group of prominent lobbyists.
the French laundry.
The pictures, first published in the Chronicle, showed no one, including the California Medical Association representatives, wearing face masks. So if the medical association officials aren't even wearing the mask, what does that say? They just want power over you.
People are starting to notice.
Yeah.
Rules for thee, not me. Hey, if I got a solid $130,000 paycheck, steady income, you know what? I'd do that too. I mean, why would I?
Yeah.
His life's not in jeopardy.
And look at what this bastard said. He tries to walk it back. As soon as I sat down at the table, I realized it was a little larger group than I had anticipated, and I made a bad mistake. And he says, instead of sitting down, I should have stood up and walked back, got in my car, and drove back to my house. But you fucking didn't! Oh!
Well, you Christ, this disgusting little. We are all human. We all fall short sometimes.
Oh, you were not.
Bullshit!
I think
Bull
it's
fucking
insulting.
shit!
It's insulting that he thinks we'll believe it.
It's
Nothing
insulting to
human
the
who isn't you fall
intellect
short
of the
of
American.
and you ruin their lives.
Oh, they say all this shit
Really?
it's just
It's
lies,
an
dude. It's
insult,
fucking
man.
lies.
They really think their subjects are that retarded?
They think we're fucking stupid. They think we're stupid, dude. This is just horse shit.
But that's not new. They've
No.
been doing this for so long.
I like the new style where you wear it over your chin if you scroll down.
Oh yeah, look at this girl, Washington D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser. That's the right way to wear a mask right there. Look at her.
I do that sometimes.
So anyway, she took a trip. That wasn't the main one I wanted to get to. Lori Lightfoot was the just
Oh.
stain on humanity that I wanted to bring up. So Chicago.
You I need to get out for my mental health. That's essential.
Oh, it's even worse. So, Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot defended her decision to get a haircut from a professional stylist in April while salons were shut down across the state because of the stay-at-home order. The Democrat had previously said that getting your roots done is not essential. Yet she fucking does it, and listen to her excuse. I'm the public face of this city. I'm on national media. I'm out in the public eye.
Not for long.
So that you have the explicit right to do that as someone with power, but the rest of the peons can't? You fucking tyrant.
But it's not new,
Like-
though. They've been doing this.
Her looking good is more important than you looking good. Or me.
I fucking guess.
They've been doing it with
it's
gun
just
rights
sick.
for years.
It's fucking sick. And then, what's the last one? Cuomo. They didn't bring up the best example on this because Cuomo actually left his house under quarantine when he had COVID and was out in the street riding his bike without a mask on. Like, like I don't know how much more hypocritical or just shitty you can get than that. Like,
A lot of these guys are the same people that said that you have no intrinsic right to own a firearm, yet they have all kinds of entourage of security with fully automatic weapons. They've been doing it for years. This isn't actually anything new.
What's it saying? Were you guys?
I think it's
saying
just becoming more evident to the masses that these guys just really don't give a shit about you.
They just want power. That's literally it. They think they're better than you,
Rules
so they
for
think
thee, not
yeah,
me.
rules for thee, not for me, because they think they're better than you. They think you're the fucking soil they can till, and we're not gonna stand for that shit because we're goddamn individuals. Ugh. And it just shows the blatant hypocrisy from these fuckers that are making these rules, breaking them. So that shows you that they're not serious about this, and they know the bullshit that they're pulling on us is all a fucking power grab.
You know what I
Unscrupulous.
loved? I loved nothing more than I was flying back from Georgia. I was working on the Georgia Senate races, and I was flying back and watching CNN. I loved nothing more than hearing the term lockdown applied to politicians. 'Cause they got, for a day, the shit they've been shoveling down our throats for the last year.
That's right. And, we don't.
Lockdown, shelter-in-place order. Enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's not... I went up to Seattle a few months ago, and I was talking to my Airbnb host. She said she knew some people who worked downtown, and their businesses were ruined, their lives were ruined by Chaz, which the media thought was hilarious.
And they just let that
Ruined
all
people's
go.
lives. That's not a national crisis. You don't mean shit.
And
That's not a national crisis. Break into the Capitol.
You know,
got
Chaz-
politicians. That's a national crisis.
Chaz only fell because it suddenly became the mayor's problem when the threats started
Yep,
coming to her.
when this problem started coming to her,
Yeah.
and you look, it's in the fucking name, the Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone. It was the same fucking thing.
They would have kept that
Same
going
fucking
for
thing.
decades.
But the media says, oh, one's okay, but the other's not. No, they're just a bunch of hypocrite fucking just douchebags. Ugh.
Yeah, I take the stance that both aren't okay. Like, resulting to violence rarely proves your point
Yeah.
or makes things better for your side at all.
Mhm.
So I get the
It's
the
all wrong.
compassion on both sides.
It's all wrong,
or
dude.
No,
the
right.
passion, but like, you know, you can't just get up in arms. That's gonna degrade our society.
Yeah, exactly. All violence is wrong. All political violence is wrong. All violence is wrong.
We have to assume the risk that you're gonna get shot in the neck when you try to break into the Capitol. I'll just leave it there.
Yeah, I guess people were not the smartest or brightest. I don't understand why any of them were covering themselves. But anyways, that's for a later episode. We're gonna get into the really fucking just really sick stuff. This shit just makes me want to fucking cry. Like, it just makes me sick to my stomach. The first one was out of Australia a couple months ago, back in September, where
That sucks, man.
a lady, she was organizing a lockdown protest, and but it didn't even happen. The cops came in, they arrested her. So let's read this story really quick. So footage shows officers handcuffing a pregnant woman in her home in Victoria on Wednesday in front of her partner and children, and so authorities have defended the officers, saying they acted appropriately. And this is what happens when you don't have a constitution. You just get arrested, you get fucking kidnapped,
I think
fucking
what's
for
worse is
your
the-
goddamn opinion.
the public support for this.
Yeah,
It's through the roof. It's not
yeah.
just them. It's just the whole society collectively.
Cheering little quislings. Oh, I'm so glad she got silenced. Cheering about it.
it's sick, dude.
Right.
You're gonna fucking
This is the result of a country that operates on a system of positive rights in their constitution as opposed to negative rights. So positive rights can only be given, but like education, housing. But if it's given, they could easily be taken away. That's the importance of our system of negative rights. Our rights can only be taken away.
Anything that is not explicitly mentioned by the government, you know,
I
you don't
mean,
have a right
look at that.
Interesting article.
Like-
Interesting line in this BBC article, which says such groups have often incorrectly alleged that lockdown measures such as travel restrictions and mask wearing orders infringe human rights. They're just going to make that statement incorrectly alleged, as though human rights are not a topic for which there's reasonable debate. So they have this
Yeah.
kind of set aside,
Yeah, they just brush it aside,
set in
dude.
stone notion of human rights, and enough that the BBC can fact check it and say that a travel restriction is not a human rights violation, unless Trump does it, presumably.
Yep. You know, it's only bad if fucking righties do it, dude. This is completely fine. Them kidnapping a woman for a Facebook post. It's just sick. It's fucking sick. And
Oh, yeah.
this is where we have to draw the line, my people. When they come in, they try to take your wife away or your mother away. What are you gonna do? Are you just gonna let them do it?
Pop them in the grill.
Well, the line was crossed like fucking yesterday, man.
If she got in trouble for.
Huh? What was that?
Do we have the actual post that she got in trouble
Yeah.
for?
So she made a Facebook
was like a
event.
Event.
And that was promoting a anti-lockdown protest, a gathering of people, and they arrested her for that. Simply a Facebook event that didn't even happen yet.
Hadn't even transpired.
It hadn't even happened. I could understand it, yet I would just completely disagree with it. Them arresting her after it happened, maybe there's some excuse there, but this is just fucking tyrannical. This is authoritarian, just the pinnacle of authoritarianism, and this is what you have to stand up against. I really hope when and if this starts happening here, people fucking stand up against it. I don't think people would really.
I mean, it's bad enough if they were to bust the protest, but the fact that they're getting her on a conspiracy charge, like they were conspiring to protest. Oh my god.
I would even look into whether there's even parliamentary legislation that permits them to do so, right? Or they're just acting under the thumb of authority
No.
that isn't written.
And she was, but I don't know what the total charges were. She probably got fined a shitload and probably had to spend a
Probably
little bit.
stayed
and
overnight, got a fat fine.
it's so wrong. It's so fucking wrong.
Like, what law would you even be cited with? Where is it written?
It's all the
Can't
new
order.
mandates and bullshit, dude. Because the government's like Australia, they can
Thin
just
air.
put this
They're
shit.
pulling it
Yeah,
from thin air.
exactly.
That's what I'm saying.
There's no.
Well,
There's no
Australia
checks and
took the
balances.
people's guns away 20 years ago, so perhaps this is the natural result of that.
Obviously.
New Zealand
yeah.
very recently too.
Oh well, we're the next.
We're gonna get to New Zealand.
For real?
Yeah.
Well,
Oh,
amount of
this
money.
this is the fucking. Okay, well, New Zealand's down a little bit,
Oh,
but
shit.
anyways, we'll go into more protests. So there was a anti-lockdown protest in London that happened. Over 150 people were arrested simply for speaking their mind and being, in the street. There were probably some people that were being agitators, but most of these people were just trying to get their voice out and have their voice heard on something that really matters to them. Their businesses are closed. They can't go out and do anything, so they go out and protest, and they get fucking arrested. Like, and this is London, dude. Like,
Don't they have Boris Johnson? What's he doing, man?
I don't know what the fuck he's doing.
Not
He
getting a
needs
haircut.
yeah.
It's such a disappointment. I really had hope for the guy. I mean, it seemed like he'd had some of Trump's brashness
Could've
along
had
with an
Nigel,
intellectual
could've had Boris.
I
base
know,
that
dude.
Trump didn't have.
Should have went with
Such a
Nigel
shame.
Farage.
It's disgusting.
Thank you.
It's fucking
Farage
disgusting.
would be great.
Yeah, Farage. Oh, I met Farage, dude. He's the coolest fucking guy.
I drank
dude.
with him at a
Like,
bar.
oh.
Dude, it was fucking epic.
You drank with him?
Yeah.
Oh, we were all at that same
Yeah.
one, dude.
Because they were like,
oh.
get the legacy pass for $15 today. I was like,
Kenny
Oh, yeah.
ran into him.
Damn,
in the
dude,
elevator.
I should have did that too, because he's literally like one of the he knows his shit and he stands for human rights.
we
you
talked
know?
about Theresa May. We talked about Tommy Robinson. I think I
Yeah.
might have even asked him about Julian Assange's confinement in the Belmarsh prison in the
Yeah.
UK.
Anyway.
yeah, it's
Lot of cool shit.
really a shame that they couldn't pick a better leader that stands up for human rights.
Boris.
And that's Britain, and then we'll go over to Germany here, which
Nothing ever bad happens in Germany.
yeah, nothing bad ever happens there, So this story is a German constitutional court upholds a ban on an anti-lockdown protest. So
Of course.
basically, these event organizers, they went to go get approval of a protest. They went through all the legal channels to do it, and the court finally said, it's unconstitutional to gather. For humans to gather, they said was unconstitutional, which is just fucking. Of course, Germany would do this. They don't know what the fuck human rights are. They haven't known what human rights are, I don't think ever, dude. Other than some of the Enlightenment thinkers that came out of Germany, like maybe like few individuals, really the only ones fighting for fucking freedom.
The
over
Frankfurt
there.
The
School in Germany
Enlightenment
is
was
where
more of an
Marxism
English and French thing.
Mm.
The Germans were always a little bit
Critical race theory.
Yeah.
communitarian is the
Yeah.
blunt way of putting it.
Yeah. Well, they used to be really independent, before the unification, which was, I don't know, you can argue was a bad thing, but they were all little states of nations. They weren't like these big nation states like France, Spain, Italy. Germany was composed of many different independent nations, so it blows my mind how so many independent little states could go under one authoritarian rule. Like
Post World War I or what?
it was this
The
is
Weimar Republic?
no, this is back in 18.
No, that was before it was Prussia and became Germany.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because it was Prussia, which was probably the biggest state that formed into Germany, and then like 15 different little states, basically like Nuremberg, what's the other one? Bavaria, Baden-Württemberg, basically all these little states, and it's just amazing to me that
Yeah.
they became so authoritarian so quickly. And I don't know, maybe it has to do with Bismarck, but all that history is.
For any of the
Yeah.
viewers out there who are unsure of how critical theory or cultural Marxism infiltrated our country, just look at the School of Exile or the Frankfurt School in Germany, and that should give you a good picture of how it came to our states.
So it's not that surprising, but cops moved in and they cleared out these
Gestapo rolls
protesters.
up.
These
Gestapo.
just voicing their opinions in the street in a group. Like it's just disgusting. But anyways, we'll go to America now, to where
Here we
Jason, you were actually at this Huntington Beach protest.
Yeah.
This shows that we
Yeah, I
still
was.
have a right to be out there. I mean, I formed a little protest out in Rio Grande a couple weeks ago to actually stand up for this, and it shows we still have a right to do this. Our cops won't come out and fucking throw us and kidnap us for speaking our mind out on the streets and gathering. We still have rights here. So if you wanted to give us like a little rundown on the Huntington Beach protest and what happened there, that'd be
Well,
awesome.
it was great on one level. It was great. There were several hundred people, but
Mhm.
I'm concerned because the Huntington Beach protest was very Trump focused.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
I
what I
voted
noticed,
for Trump. Ideally, I would want this to be a nonpartisan thing.
Right.
Yeah.
And
You would
so
hope.
the best protest I went to was with Angela Marston of Pineapple Hill Saloon. You might have seen her video on Twitter.
Yeah.
Her business was being shut down while a movie studio, which is completely essential, was operating
Yep.
20 feet away. So
Yep.
I went to a protest with her at the house of one of the LA County supervisors, and that was probably the best one I went to. I mean, it was certainly conservative leaning, but it's nonpartisan, and this should ideally be nonpartisan.
Yeah.
There's lots of left-wing arguments against this. I mean, this does affect minorities
Yeah.
and
For the poor.
working class
Yeah.
people far more than it affects the wealthy.
They're always the
It's-
cohort that's affected the most.
The impoverished.
Yeah.
Yeah, this has been a huge wealth transfer from the poor to the rich.
Mm.
This past year. I mean, Musk and Bezos doubled their wealth.
Oh yeah.
Which great to them, but they didn't do it in a free market.
No.
Mm.
And so that was the thing about the Huntington Beach protest. It was too much Trump stuff, too much Q stuff. I really tend to, even Alex Jones says Q is crazy now, so I think we should really stay away from that one. But there was too much of that, and it just felt like they were letting us let off steam. Like the cops were there, they were pretty reasonable. I think they arrested some people for blocking traffic.
Yeah.
The second time
QAnon is
around,
starting to
but-
eat their own, man.
Says
Like that,
it.
they were accusing some of the people that were in the protest of being BLM insurrectionists, and they were just confronting a lot of the radical left a few months
at
ago.
Huntington Beach.
At Huntington Beach?
No, it was at
I
the
didn't see
Capitol
anything like
protest.
that.
or the
Oh,
storm.
okay.
Yeah, there was the guy that was wearing the horns and the face paint and stuff. And they were like, "Oh, he's a BLM
Oh yeah.
insurrectionist."
We'll get to that one.
Yeah.
Fucking eating each
It's
other.
the one day conservatives act like leftists and it breaks the country.
Yeah.
Exactly. Except we directed it to the right place instead of innocent businesses,
Mm-hmm.
people, and arson.
Exactly.
Well, a better place.
Mhm.
I think that we should try to resolve this through the system. Lawsuits are being filed against Newsom right now. I think Angela Marston, the above mentioned, is filing one of those.
Mm.
Hopefully, the courts of this country will uphold the Constitution.
Hopefully.
Hopefully, we can resolve this within the system.
Don't hold
Yeah.
your breath.
If not, I refer you to the first 3 paragraphs of the Declaration of Independence.
That's right. That's fucking right. But yeah, it is sad that these lockdown protests, they are more, partisan in nature. Because when people bring out the Trump flags, that basically puts off anybody, even center or left, from joining. And
Yeah.
it's the same thing that the BLM kind of people did, although they were kind of nasty people too. But it's whenever you want a goal, you want to include the most people as possible. You don't want to cut off your a group that would support you if otherwise they wouldn't. So going forward, we really got to try to make sure if we do these protests, and for anybody watching, try to make them non-partisan as possible, because this is really an issue that's affecting all of us, not just a conservative issue,
Right.
not just the left issue. It's
It is
literally
not a
affecting all of us.
Trump-Biden dichotomy.
Yeah.
Yep.
But yeah, anyways, we're gonna go. Oh, this is the worst one here. So, the dictatorship in fucking New Zealand, dude. Of course, you guys have heard great news out of New Zealand. There's no COVID. But what the fuck have they done to do that, dude? They have trampled on humanity. So, basically, let's go over here.
What's the prime minister's name again? Jacinda Ardern or how do you pronounce it?
Who knows?
I'll just call her a fucking tyrant.
Yeah, she's a fucking tyrant. So basically, they put on level 4 restrictions saying you can't leave your house for anything non-essential. There have been over 2,500 breaches of the Civil Defense Emergency Management Act and Health Act, and this has resulted in over, almost 300 prosecutions, 2,300 warnings, and 74 youth referrals. All of this just didn't need to happen. And the breaches, and this is just the most scary part of this. The most tyrannical part of this is the breaches have continued despite targeted moves from authorities, including having a stronger police presence on the street and setting up checkpoints and stopping cars to see where drivers are headed to. They're literally fucking setting up Gestapo checkpoints in order to see where people are fucking going to because of this COVID shit. It's literally tyrannical. It's the pinnacle of authoritarianism, and it's gonna come here if we don't fucking stand up against it.
Yeah, and remember, New Zealand is the example that everybody says we should follow. It's like, oh, look
It's
at New
disgusting.
Zealand, they got a hold of this. If we just did what New Zealand did,
There would be a civil war if,
Mm.
if our governments
New
tried to do what New Zealand did.
I would. Ugh. Is it-
like I said, I hope this can be resolved within the system, and that's what we should be trying for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. But yeah,
When they
it just.
implemented a radical gun control scheme that was almost a knee-jerk reaction.
Oh,
to
New Zealand.
That massacre that happened in
Oh
2018.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, if you read the shooter's manifesto, he said he used a gun rather than a bomb, which probably he could have killed more people with. He used a gun in order to provoke gun confiscation. So
Yeah, and he got what he wanted. He got what he wanted.
Mm. Yep. But that's just to show you guys how crazy New Zealand is. Like, I don't know if a lot of people aren't watching the news all the time, but when I heard about this, it made me so sick because they're individuals out there. They're just trying to live their lives, and they're being locked in their homes by this tyrannical government that has no right to do this to them. And the fact that they're setting up Gestapo checkpoints and arresting people for leaving their homes it's sickening, and I never want to see it here. But I think we're gonna eventually see it here with everything happening, and we have to do everything in our power to stop it. We can't stand it. We can't stand for it. Because this is what it'll get to. If it gets to this point, then it's going to get to China's point, where they're going to start killing people for disappearing.
Immaculate timing. They just make a society of unarmed peons. And now, what are they going to do? What are they going to do? They have no fire. There was the Kiwi police over there, New Zealand. They went after some guy who had a .22 lever action rifle, and they sent like 20 police over there to confiscate.
Oh my god.
Or no, they suspected that he had one. He ended up not having any, and
Right.
they tore his house apart. Right.
It's always a matter of conspiracy. There's no proof until.
I want to give a shout out to the one man in the parliamentary system in New Zealand that actually stood up to tyranny. His name is, I think, is MP David Seymour. He was the only guy that said no to that tyrant. He was the only guy that said no. So y'all should look him up. David Seymour of New Zealand. He's the only guy that said no to tyranny.
He's got some big cojones.
Yep.
Yeah. But anyways, and then the next source we got here comes out of Britain. A sheriff there, a police chief, calls for power of entry into homes of suspected lockdown breakers. So he wants the authority to what does he say here? So the government should toughen the lockdown by giving officers the right to force entry into homes of suspected lawbreakers, a policing leader has said. So they want to be able to fucking break your door down because you're having a party with one more person than you should be. I mean, we've already seen this in Canada. There was a little family gathering that was happening up there a couple weeks ago, I think for Christmas, and they had one more person than they were supposed to, and the police came in and dragged them out.
Yeah, if you went over to the store and you bought like a meal for 10 or 12 people, you were already on a watch list.
Mm-hmm.
Just for having done something like that.
And this police chief calling for forceful entry into people that he suspects of breaking these lockdown mandates is
sounds like the war on drugs, but
on
crack.
Yeah, exactly, dude.
On crack.
I don't know how many.
Anyone accept this? If Donald Trump had done this a month before he did, they would have called him a fascist, and rightly so.
Just to give a flashback to all who are watching and listening, 2 years ago, they were ridiculing and mocking him because he didn't take the draconian and tyrannical steps that the tyrant Prime Minister of New Zealand did. They were actually parading her as what a leader. Why can't we be New Zealand?
Mm-hmm.
And they were making him look like a dumbass, because he wasn't doing the same thing on the gun control debate,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but did you have anything to add, Matt, on this story out of Britain? Police chief wanting to stricter lockdown rules to be able to force entry.
I mean, I'm not going to comment on someone else's government, dude.
Yeah.
I like ours the best. I'm all American.
That's good.
I feel it, bro.
Like, what am I going to say? I'm not a part of their situation. I'm not going to roll over them. And just so you guys know, I got the name of the Prime Minister of New Zealand. It's Jacinda Ardern.
Okay.
Just it's a hard.
Yeah, we just called her a tyrant. That's it.
Yeah, basically.
Big T.
Just looking up stuff over here. Yeah, I don't really have anything to comment on.
Hey, look up
the
David
government.
Seymour.
Like, I get that they handle it however they want to, but for
You don't go to
America,
Yale, bro.
like, I agree, you shouldn't compel people to wear masks, but if it's preventative and there's a pandemic, which there is going on, you should wear it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Suggestion at the most, not a mandate.
Should not must. I
Yeah.
totally agree.
Yeah. But anyways, move on to a few sources here. What happened on New Year's? So basically, we'll start with this one in LA. It's people just partying, trying to have a good time on New Year's Eve. And the California Coronavirus LA Sheriff's Department raids 5 super spreader New Year's Eve parties, making 90 arrests and finding 7 handguns. I don't care about the handgun part, but they arrested people, they kidnapped people for partying, and it's just it makes it. I don't know how many more times I can say it. It makes me sick, but like. I never thought that we would get to a place in America where they would be able to shut down parties. Like, I remember thinking this a couple years ago, like, 2016, 2017, just going out to bars and stuff and dancing. I always had it in my head that this is one thing that they were never going to be able to get, and they fucking got it. They took away our parties, man, and they're arresting people for partying, dude.
They took away above ground parties.
That's true. Yeah. Well, legal
they brought
parties.
Back speakeasies. They just said, "Oh, we want to bring back the 20s." We all said, "I can't wait for the 20s to be here again," and they heard our call, so they brought back speakeasies.
Yeah. Well, that's actually the next story here in
Very considerate of it.
from New York City. It was basically like a speakeasy event that had hundreds of people there. They're just partying New Year's Eve. And look, you can see a lot of them have masks on.
That should
Now let's bring back the unregistered machine guns.
That should give you an idea of how well mandates actually work.
But yeah, anyways, it says here one celebration in Queens had an excess of 300 patrons. Oh no, 300 people partying who were consuming alcohol. Oh no, singing karaoke. Oh no, and dancing. Oh god, that's horrible.
You cannot dance.
Oh, the humanity.
Obviously, we're being fucking facetious here. Because at the point where government can restrict dancing and partying and just singing, like people are just trying to have a good time, and they're stomping on the boot, or they're stomping on the face of humanity. It's
I don't
really
know.
sad.
I've heard some pretty bad karaoke, but
That's true. But yeah, anyways, New York City got raided, and then this probably happened in a lot of other cities too. But these are the 2 main ones that happened.
People have been warning about this for years, though. When they started with free speech and the Second Amendment, people said that it's not going to stop there. They seek to regulate just about every aspect of your life.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're reading articles where they're literally regulating things like dancing and alcohol.
Good point.
And
it's crazy. I remember having an argument with one person in high school. He was this big bully, thought he was smart, and I was like, you just wait until they come for your alcohol. And fucking, he was like, you're fucking stupid. That would never happen here. And well, what happens in Pennsylvania just a couple months ago? They restricted people from buying alcohol on Thanksgiving night. And the week after that, too. Like, I hate being fucking wrong, dude.
Think of all the people who need alcohol to keep them from fucking doing some crazy shit.
Yeah. It's like, I literally foresaw all this shit fucking years ago, and I thought I was crazy for all of it, but I wasn't. I really hope, what's the word? I really hoped that I would have been wrong, but I wasn't wrong, and all this shit is just fucking falling apart now. And
that's the thing.
It's lunacy, man.
That's what's an issue with, like, as more generations come, like, the literacy rate goes down. So you have to read and you have to know about past historical events to be right in the future. Like, you're well read, you're a history buff somewhat, so you could see the future. I mean, a lot of kids my age, I'm 21, maybe a bit younger, they don't read, and it's sad.
They don't read articles, they don't read books.
Everyone runs around like their heads cut off like a chicken.
If the Marxists continue to have the stronghold that they do over Western academia, and the mainstream media continues to propagate fear to the general public, it's not going to be a whole lot better of an outcome, or it's not a very good outlook for the future.
Yeah.
Just throwing this out there, I had an actually really good argument for why they won't ban alcohol, at least for extended periods, especially during COVID times. It's because a lot of people need alcohol to survive. Like, they'll suffer through withdrawals.
Yeah.
If the alcoholics became sober, it'd be over for them.
And if we can't, our whole goal is to limit the people that are going to hospitals right now. So I don't think that the banning of alcohol is going to happen anytime soon.
No.
Especially with
It's
the
considered
Yeah,
an essential
like a
business.
long-term ban. Yeah, hopefully that doesn't happen. But I was just bringing
I
up
think
the
you're
fact
talking
that
about
they,
more like house parties.
They need to keep the alcoholics docile.
yeah. Well, I mean, the main point that I wanted to bring up with that point was that they actually did and were able to ban alcohol for a certain amount of time.
Right,
You know,
Thanksgiving,
obviously,
yeah.
it wasn't long term, but if they did it then, what's saying they can't do it again and for longer? Like, you know, they probably won't just because of the reasons you brought up, Matt. But they have the power and they know they can do that now, which is you know, very unfortunate. But
Well, that's what disturbs me about the masks is I think they were a gateway. And over the summer, I had people who said, "Oh, the masks are the key to getting back to normal," which sounds great. You know, you just wear this one somewhat irritating thing on your face, and we can just mostly go back to normal.
No,
I think that masks were not the vanguard against further lockdowns. As
No,
we said. I think
they-
they were a gateway to it.
yeah,
They
feel
were
like-
testing the waters.
I feel
If
like
you've
I'm
ever
living
dealt
in
with
a...
a bully. If
Yeah.
you ever dealt with a tyrant, they start out little by little. Like they'll make some request of you that's, I think Jordan Peterson talks about this. Bullies and tyrants make some small request of you, and because you're usually a polite person,
They'll come
as
back.
most people are, you'll go along with it. Then they'll
Yep.
ask something.
Just like
a
the
little bigger.
mafia, how they extort certain businesses. You give them one, you give them it once, they'll keep on coming
It's
back.
called the tragedy of the law-abiding citizen.
Once you have paid him the Dane Geld, you'll never get rid of the
Yeah,
Dane.
it's-
Rudyard Kipling.
Whatever pleases the crown.
I feel like I'm living in a live-action adaptation of 1984.
It really is. We're in the middle of 1984, Brave New World, and Fahrenheit 9/11, and fucking probably Animal Farm and a couple other ones. But
I've already chosen my character in the book. Have you?
Don't forget Atlas Shrugged.
oh yeah, Atlas
Atlas
Shrugged too.
Shrugged.
I haven't read that one. I need to do that one. Same
make
with
the choices
Fahrenheit
that you want
I
9/11.
to
think
be.
Fahrenheit 451 is probably like one of the best books.
Yeah.
Dystopian books I've read.
Yeah.
Don't get it mixed up with Michael Moore's shitty movie.
Oh god. Yeah.
Although that was, I mean, he was against the Iraq War. I mean, that
Yeah.
was back when
True.
people on the left cared about freedom, and he was making the same criticisms of the government that now only a conservative would make as pertains to lockdowns.
Exactly.
Really, the
Yeah.
hypocrisy of the left. I mean, Alan Dershowitz, you know, he's going, yeah, the government can take away your freedoms. All of these civil libertarians, Chemerinsky, all these guys, their surrender on this issue is appalling. Jacobson v. Massachusetts. Do you want to get into that one at all? The legal precedent?
Yeah. Go ahead. Just do a quick
So
rundown.
the entire legal precedent for this rests on one single case in 1905, Jacobson v. Massachusetts, which upheld a mandatory smallpox vaccination law
Oh
in
god.
the state of Massachusetts. That's everything. This is 10 years after Plessy v. Ferguson. This is 10 years before Schenck
yeah.
v. U.S., in which the court upheld the imprisoning of a socialist who opposed World War I.
Yeah.
So this was not a time of civil liberty, and yet it's the only precedent on public health. And by the way, that led Jacobson v. Massachusetts led to Buck v. Bell in 1927, which was mandatory sterilization. So this is all they have is that one case. And you hear, I read a piece by Erwin Chemerinsky, liberal scholar, but I would think a fairly sensible one, civil libertarian, and he's citing, Jacobson v. Massachusetts. Okay, fine. Cite Plessy v. Ferguson while you're at it. Go back. That's not
Forced
Cite Lochner v. New York.
Right.
Let's go back to the Lochner era. I'd be okay with that one. But the ridiculousness of the left in referring to this 100-year-old precedent, and it wasn't even a very good case. Jacobson's arguments were weak. He said that the vaccination violated the preamble. So you're referring back to this bad 100-year-old case as precedent is shameful.
Yeah, it's just amazing.
Precedent
Some-
is tricky.
Yeah, because once one decision gets made, how do
And
you
it
get
could have
over
been
it?
the
Like,
worst decision ever,
right, with
but-
the wrong people
Uh-huh.
making it. But I'm not too read up on Supreme Court history and whatnot. But I know a few cases. But I know there've been a lot of good decisions and a lot of real bad decisions that left real shitty precedent, like what we're going through now and what you talked about.
Well, I know our founders, if they had, even accounting for the fact that there's much less disease around now than there was then, if our founders could see this, they would not have been happy.
No.
None of them, not even the larger government ones like Hamilton.
Yeah.
They would not have been happy about
Federalists.
See, the Federalists and the Anti-Federalists would have come together like that.
Yeah.
Well, they
They
were
would've been
They would
like,
have seen
no,
what's coming in the
no.
21st century. They would have come together.
Yo.
Well, they
So
were
fast.
slave owners, so any argument they can make is
It's
null.
moot.
They
It's
would have
moot, dude.
reconciled immediately had they
Mhm.
had a crystal ball seeing into what we're going through right now.
Mm. But yeah, anyways, we'll keep going on the New Year's Eve thing. So actually, there was a story out of France here where there was French ravers. They tried to set up a little party, and police came down to try to shut it down. They got attacked, which is
Logical outcome.
logical outcome. So you see here, raves at underground curfew busting New Year's Eve party that drew in at least 2,500 people in Western
Nice.
France have attacked the police sent to shut them down. Obviously, we don't condone violence here, but I think there's a line you have to draw on defending yourself and defending your rights.
Mhm.
And I think these people were defending their rights because you have a right to party. Like, it's like it might not be like a big enumerated right, but like you have a human right to party. Nobody can stop
We're
you
the-
from having a good time.
We're the only country that includes the pursuit of happiness
Yeah.
in their constitution as a value that we must hold.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
But anyways, violence is never good, but I think the police officers that came through to try to shut these parties down, they're the violence instigators. So I think people have a right to
Yeah,
defend themselves.
We didn't go out and search for cops to beat up.
Exactly. Oh, but
I would rather solve this within the system.
yeah.
If that
Exactly.
can't be done, one of these days some disgusting little shrewish government bureaucrat is going to come to a business and say, "I'm sorry, I'm giving you a $1,500 ticket because your tables are only 6 feet apart."
Mm-hmm.
And the business owner is going to pull a gun on them. I'm not endorsing that, but that will
It's a
happen.
lot.
It's gonna,
Logical
it's gonna
outcome.
happen,
happens.
dude.
History repeats itself.
It's people don't stand idly by while they're being trampled on. They just don't, and the people are gonna crack. And I think people are. I mean, you've seen it with the Capitol Hill thing. People are cracking.
Well, they're gonna
Dude.
fuck with the wrong people. Like other
Yeah.
Yeah,
countries,
exactly.
that's a different story. But America, you're in for a surprise.
Mm-hmm.
Having a bad
Exactly.
day, you fuck with the wrong people, life happens.
Yeah. But anyways, yeah, we should really try to solve this stuff in the system, like Jason was saying. But my opinion is, the people instigating the violence, you have a right to defend yourself against them. And in this case, I think the police were the
I've just
People
seen too
instigating
many
violence.
videos of raids, police raids, to expect an okay outcome.
I'm not okay with
I-
almost any police raid unless it's against like a mafia that's out there killing people. Like
Yeah,
Or some child trafficking ring or something.
there's very few instances where
it ends well.
like a raid, especially like an unlawful raid like this is warranted. But anyways, yeah, these ravers, they stood up for their rights, and
So did any of them? Well, I guess some of them would. Did they get prosecuted?
get arrested.
Yeah.
I'm sure they did. Let's see here. So
I'm
it looks
sure,
like yeah. So
They're looking at. It says they're looking at an array of possible criminal charges.
Yeah, so a few of them probably got arrested. Probably not all got arrested, but like they're just young people, dude. We went over this. Young people
They're
are
having
not.
way too much fun. Shut it down.
They're not susceptible as older people are to this virus. If you're young and you don't have any complicated issues, COVID's the same to you statistically as the flu. So
Anyone in the science field should know that cohorts matter, and young people are being faced with the burden that they should not have to for a virus that affects people in different ways.
yeah,
It's not all the same.
yeah. But anyways, we're gonna get into more of the business aspect of this, the economic impact of this, just a little bit. Obviously we've talked a little bit about on it, but we haven't gotten to any of the sources yet. But here's just a quick one from CNBC, and this was back in September 16th, and it shows that, so here's what it says. Yelp data shows 60% of business closures due to the coronavirus pandemic are now permanent. So
Shocker.
that's due to lockdowns. This isn't due to the virus. Companies, businesses would still be open if the government didn't mandate closures of them. We'll just go over a few of these. So as of August 31st, so this was 4 months ago, some 160,000 businesses have indicated on Yelp that they have closed, a 23 increase since mid-July. So it's probably up another 23% because it's been another 4 months. And it says, according to Yelp data, permanent closures have reached almost 100,000, representing 60% of closed businesses that won't ever be reopening. It's just all these small businesses, like you said, Jason, this is the biggest wealth transfer that we've seen in our lifetimes, from poorer classes to elites, because when you shut down small businesses like this, where small lower income people are really trying to move up in the world, and you just shut them all down, you destroy that pathway for them, and the only pathway is for rich people to get richer.
But there's a lot of people that are naive to that kind of a detrimental impact as a result of those lockdowns. I've seen them unabashedly, kind of endorse.
Just be okay with all of their
they don't actually realize
neighbors'
that.
businesses
It's
being
cognitive
closed.
dissonance. They'll hear an economic argument and somehow it's not humane.
Yeah.
You're
it's
not taking a
tied
beating
to
personally
They
by these
don't-
people.
Well, I heard this from some of the paleocons, the Sorabamari traditionalist conservative types, and that was disappointing. The left kind of did when Bethany Mandel on Twitter said, "Okay, I just want the country open. Call me Granny Killer." The left jumped on her, but the left doesn't really care about grannies. A few years ago, watch the commercials they were making in the 2018 midterms, where they had this one a bunch of ugly old people saying, "Dear young people, don't vote. I don't care about school shootings and global warming." So the left doesn't really care. I'm speaking in generalistic terms, I know, but the left doesn't really care about old people. But
No.
social conservatives do actually care about grannies, so they were kind of using this. It's
Yeah.
ghoulish, that these
just
evil
manipulative guilt.
libertarians are placing money ahead of life,
Mhm.
and
It's all connected.
It's all
Have you ever read the
Basically,
Communist
the
Manifesto?
stock portfolios of the wealthy. Nothing could be worse. The wealthy are fine, as they are. Some have lost a little bit of money. The wealthy are fine. Only people living in America during an economic upswing could be so stupid as to believe that the economy is limited to the stock portfolios of the wealthy.
It's just a major example of cognitive dissonance, where you could believe something wholeheartedly, like you need to be taken care of as a citizen, and then on the other hand, let's wipe out all these businesses. Well, people gotta eat. I don't understand what the big issue here is.
Yeah.
But they'll use the manipulative guilt as a mechanism to try and kind of guilt trip you into espousing a more radical and more broad platform that nobody in the right mind would want. Right?
No, it's like I said earlier, it's hurting. I think these lockdowns only hurt people. I mean, obviously they're benefiting rich people. You see the stock market just, fucking skyrocketing.
This wasn't preemptive. This wasn't planned at all.
Right. But anyways, just go into one more little source here on the economy, and basically, it's the money supply. And we have had a debt problem here for a while, and a money supply issue with the Fed. But as you guys can see from this graph, the M2 money supply, which is basically just the how many dollars are in circulation in the public and private funds. You guys can see
Paper dollars?
Fiat currency,
Yeah, just all dollars in general, digital and fiat. But yeah, this is just dollars.
All that's under the purview of the Federal Reserve, right?
Yeah.
They're not
So
talking about cryptocurrency.
Probably.
Yeah, no.
No,
Yeah, no
probably
crypto.
not.
So as you guys see, it's a slow move up. Obviously, the graph starts to slowly move up as the years come closer to recent times. But as you can see, once lockdown starts, like you guys can see it right here. It's March, because lockdown started here in March 13th, I think, and you guys can see the Fed just starts printing money. They just
Dollar
start
value is
fucking
taking
just
a shit.
this. You guys don't understand how bad this is for
That's why Bitcoin's going up right now.
That's why I'm buying
Exactly.
up all the vintage Pokemon card packs.
That's anything. Get your money out of the dollar right now. If you're listening to this, get your money out of the dollar. It's going to inflate, and it's going to inflate very rapidly.
Invest in
We've
gold.
already seen it. I've going out and getting lunch. Burritos used to be, before lockdown started, $10. They're literally $15 now. So that's a 50% increase in just local goods.
Fuck, dude. That's scary.
Yeah, I've noticed a bit of that too. And that's the thing about the $2,000 stimulus checks. We'll pay for them.
Yeah,
We'll just pay a little
it's
bit, but we'll pay.
it's
Oh, yeah.
not
They'll
coming
take
out
it
of
back in
nowhere.
taxes.
We're taking money from our unborn children that don't have no say in
Any
this.
say they're the biggest minorities
It's
there
too late,
is.
man. There is no money. There is no money to be had. The money was all went to Sudan and Israel, and
Yep, it's gone. It's
They got your
gone,
money.
dude. Poof. Yep, look at it. It's shot up, and this is just
damn.
economists are just this is
This is the
very-
exponential growth we should be worried about.
Yeah, that's right here, and our debt is fucking just inflating too, along with this. So, just another economic impact. It's going to get really bad for the economy soon if these lockdowns aren't stopped and people don't start standing up against them. Like, we need to open up the economy. Like, it's as simple as that. Be careful, but let's open up the economy to get this shit rolling again, because it's really bad what's happening. It's going to affect the poorest people most, because the poorest people aren't going to have as much buying power as the older or as the richer people who can just diversify their funds into crypto or gold or silver. No, they're going to have $2,000, $3,000 in their bank. Money's going to inflate, and loaf of bread's going to be $1, and then it's going to be $10, and you're going to have that much less buying power. So
Yeah, that terrifies me looking at this graph.
yeah,
Absolutely
and it's just
terrifies
going
me.
to keep going. It's just going to keep going, especially with the stimulus and the unemployment checks. They're just trying to make people just dependent on them. But I mean, the dependency only goes so far until the dollar collapses. Then what happens, man? There's going to be chaos in the fucking streets, and it's going to be worse than the Great Depression, to be honest. Like, unless something is done soon about this. But I don't know. Is there anything else you guys wanted to add to the money supply issue?
Buy Bitcoin. I'm
Buy
invested.
Bitcoin.
So
Yeah, buy
You-
Bitcoin, buy crypto, but Litecoin, Ethereum. I invested I have almost like $600 in
Yeah, sunk it all
crypto.
into gold and guns.
I bought silver too, cause like silver's more tradable. Cause like gold, like it's hard to chop up, trade with it. It's good value holder, but it's not necessarily a good trader, But still though, gold is a much better investment right now than anything in the dollars. Just get your money out of the dollar, buy assets, buy materials that you can sell, buy silver, gold, Bitcoin, all of that.
Awful, man.
Yeah.
It frightens me so much.
But anyways, we'll go getting in the last section here. The effect on mental health.
This
And
is the important one.
yeah.
In my eyes.
And
Oh, I
this
saw this
one
one.
comes out of feed. Yeah. So this is some just nasty data here. So San Francisco sees more overdose deaths than COVID deaths in 2020. And let me put this into perspective for you guys, because they give you the data here. So the Associated Press, a total of 621 people have died of drug overdoses this year in San Francisco, compared to 173 deaths in the city from COVID-19. The number of San Francisco drug overdose is up from 441 in 2019. You do that math, this number that they have, the increase is more than the deaths from COVID.
1,062.
These lockdowns and this pressure that you're putting on the lowest form or the lowest class of society is doing an innumerable amount of damage. And as you guys can see, the difference in between the years is higher than the actual deaths from COVID. So the lockdowns in this specific case can be argued to be worse than COVID. It's plain easy as that. Do 621 minus 441. It's bigger than 173, and it's as simple as that. It's just math. It's fucking simple math, and you can do it right there, and it shows you plain straight up what the fucking lockdowns are doing. Do you guys have anything to add on the drug overdose stat?
Well, it's essentially a solution that's worse than the actual problem.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's
Well, I think this is why economic knowledge or economic literacy would be helpful. So Henry Hazlitt's, I'm sure you guys know this, the economics in one lesson is the
Right.
task of an economist is to look at the consequences of a policy, not just for one group, but for all groups, and to follow all of its potential effects to their
Yeah.
conclusions.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what it's unidirectional thinking. Virus is bad, therefore we must stop virus, without taking into account the trade-offs that come of any course of action. That was what Cuomo said. If it saves one life, it's worth it.
But it's
In
not.
God,
though.
that's so ignorant
if
for
you
a
kill
leader
10
to
people
say.
save one.
Yeah. What's the point then? Exactly. Like you're so right on that point, because
Yeah,
that.
but it's not
a
just
bubble wrapped
lives either.
society.
There are many
There's-
truths at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just lives; it's quality of life. We're all alive for a reason, and this is where it gets less economic.
Yeah.
Which is that some people in our society are so afraid of death that they will sacrifice any good
Yeah,
on the altar of the mere preservation of life,
Mhm.
however miserable such
You have to
life
live
may
it.
be.
They want to be
Mhm.
alive. They don't want to live, and that's the biggest
Mhm.
difference.
I guess
Yeah,
as much as
exactly.
there's an abject responsibility to preserve life, there's also some kind of a you know, you have to live it, right?
Mhm.
you
You
just
can't
can't spend
just-
all day
You
preserving.
can't sit in a
For
cage
what
all
end?
day.
For what
Yeah.
end?
Yeah,
Okay,
well,
we're saving all these lives, but what's the big?
What's the
long
point,
run
dude?
gonna look
Like, because like for me, my thing, like I was saying earlier, was going out every other week, you know, and having fun, going dancing. I can't do that at all, dude, because of these fucking lockdowns. What am I supposed to
You
fucking
have to
do?
take some
Like,
risk, man.
there-
You're
you
losing
do
your
have-
20s too.
Yeah, we're
You're losing your 20s. You're losing
Only
your
if you
youth.
let them.
And none of these motherfuckers, as far as Anthony Fauci, he didn't sacrifice for
No.
his country. When he was in medical school, the draft board came to his class and they said, all of you, you're going to be either the Army, Navy, the Air Force, or the NIH. Fauci chose the NIH. So when it was his time to sacrifice for his country,
He took the easy way
he
out.
did not do it.
He's one of the
He
longest
took the
holdovers,
least
the oldest
onerous
holdovers I've ever
sacrifice.
seen.
These boomers, Woodstock was in the
He's been around
middle
for
of
like 50
the
years.
Asiatic flu.
yeah,
Not
yeah.
to be
They
nihilistic.
went to, yeah, exactly, dude. Like,
Not to be nihilistic or anything, but you take a chance every day that you walk out of your door that you're gonna die.
mhm.
It's just how it is.
Yeah.
You get in an automobile, and that's probably the scariest thing you could do in your lifetime is
It
drive
really
a car.
is, yeah. Driving
And
cars.
no
very
one
dangerous.
thinks about that, and they get in it anyway.
No,
Well,
I was afraid of death for a while for personal reasons. I tend to be on the neurotic side myself, and I was afraid of death, and so I mean, it didn't stop me from getting into cars, but I would drive places, and I think this could be the day that I get paralyzed or something, and I decided I had to tell myself I'll risk death to go on this outing.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Knowing that it's an improbable outcome, but it is a possibility. I just say life is for the living.
That's,
Yeah.
I'll risk death to do this.
That's
Yeah.
the scary thing
And-
about anxiety. It's a slow death every day. Instead of just having one death, you're slowly killing
Mhm.
yourself like that every day, constantly thinking about it, and that's just terrible.
Yeah,
I mean,
but you've got to overcome it.
mhm,
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I mean, we went over this on the last episode. I made the case and I showed the math that the statistical chance from you dying from an accident is the same as the infected fatality rate of COVID. So, banning all cars and driving would have the same effect as all of these or actually a better effect, because you can much more easily restrict people from driving and having cars than you can fucking controlling a virus that's incredibly virulent.
That's a natural
You just,
thing.
like we were saying earlier, you don't have a right to not get sick. You
Right.
know,
In the same
Like-
way that you don't have a right to drive a car. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? It's a privilege to drive a car.
I don't know. I'm not getting into my personal experiences, but I don't know if I agree with the driving as a privilege thing. You can't live a normal life in this society without a car. I think driving is. I think
Ability to
driving should be
transport.
considered a right.
Well,
I mean, you can take away rights. You know, some people. I mean, felons get their voting rights taken away, their gun rights taken away.
That kind of goes into the topic of negative and positive rights.
Right.
I think.
Well,
You,
you don't
have a right to
to
leave your house.
to
You don't have a right.
somebody's car, but you have a right to drive your own car.
Yeah.
You
Arguably,
buy the car
yes.
with your own money. You have a right
Absolutely.
to drive it, barring
Yeah.
some circumstance that makes it acceptable for that to be taken away.
I would
Right.
even go as far as to saying, because there's a lot of people that like to reference the Constitution as some kind of a bastion of granting of rights.
Right. Positive system of
Yeah, I
positive
don't.
rights.
I would even go as far as to saying that you have a right to drive and to transport, even if the Constitution said otherwise. Right?
Well, that's why
what's the
the
Ninth Amendment?
anti-federalists didn't want the Bill of Rights, because they thought that it would limit the rights. It would be taken as
people would misconstrue that as
limiting
a
every other
positive.
right. That's why the Ninth Amendment is in there. And
Exactly.
enumerated
Exactly.
rights.
I think a lot of these lockdowns could be taken away by invoking the Ninth Amendment, because some
Yeah.
courts
Exactly.
have said,
Yeah.
no, well,
Why-
there's not a specific First Amendment right to do this.
I have yet to see it.
That's a good point.
Yeah, you do have a human right to travel. You have a human right to party. You have a human right to have a good time. These aren't enumerated, but you have
They're
a right to these
inalienable
things.
Property.
It's intrinsic with your being.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It goes back to that thing. As long as you're not hurting anybody else, purposely. But anyways, yeah, that's
Wholeheartedly.
yeah.
That was a great discussion.
Yeah. But anyways, back to the source. Federal surveys show that 40% of Americans are now grappling with at least one mental health or drug-related problem.
Oh yeah.
But young adults have been hit harder than any other age group, with 75% of us struggling, dude. The Post reports. And even more alarming, when the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention recently asked young adults if they had thought about killing themselves in the past 30 days, 1 in 4 said they had.
Yes.
25% of us, dude. It's just...
And then you read this stuff, oh, the pandemic is causing a mental health crisis. It's not the pandemic. It's not the pandemic. It's the lockdown.
I hate when people personify a virus. The virus did not ruin your life. It's the policies.
It's
that
literally the
ruined your
policies,
life.
yeah.
These are unscrupulous, deceitful, self-serving snakes that are at the top that are making your life terrible, not a virus.
Doesn't have arms and legs and a brain of its. The
They're
definition
laughing at us.
the definition of a virus is a life-like agent. It's not alive. It cannot ruin your life.
Yeah. But anyways, just
Well, I don't know. That applies to politicians pretty well, I'd say.
Right. But yeah, just to finish off this article, a good point to finish off on is COVID-19 should be taken seriously as a public health threat, but so too should the harms of lockdowns and government orders, and it just completely encapsulates what we've been talking about today. But
there's many truths out there, and you have to sort of balance it. You can't just be in one chamber of thinking.
Yeah, and then we got this next source here.
I think as a result of all the lockdowns and the pandemic, it's further bridged the divide between left and right. It's become even more increasingly polarized.
Well, polarization is scary.
Dude, it's nasty
subject.
stuff, man.
So, and then this next source, it's got a lot of good data on the effects on the poorer classes. Basically saying the poorer class have been a lot more stressed out, a lot more worried, and a lot less enjoyment over these, months of lockdown. And, the death toll in poor countries and among the poor within them is typically much higher than rich countries, obviously. Because, when a poor country doesn't have food, they can't just make more, or buy more like we can. We don't understand the toll that it's having on these third world countries, because we're basically propping them up. And now, we're not starving here yet, but they are over there for sure. And we haven't taken that into account. One of the gravest aspects of this lockdown, just how many poor and impoverished people are dying from lockdowns, and the stoppage of the economy, basically, because it all trickles down.
I just hate that when people think of the economy, they think of the stock market. It's like
the economy
Dow Jones.
is
the Dow Jones.
Yeah. It's just trading between individuals. That's all it is. It's not some crazy fanatical idea. It's literally as simple as, I'll give you this for this. That's the economy.
How is the S&P 500 doing?
But anyways, the main thing they wanted to bring up in this was their analyses suggest that the emotional costs of the pandemic are much higher for the poor and vulnerable than they are for the rich, heightening deep pre-existing inequities in well-being in the U.S. and many other countries. And I'd say
it is exacerbating existing inequalities globally.
It's just
and they're
incredibly...
gonna use that to establish an equitable outcome in the future. They're gonna use that as some kind of
light
they're
bulb.
going to use that right there. They create the problem and they want to offer a solution to the problems they created.
There you go. You got to think of the long.
Dude, think
That's
about
how
that.
They do it. They screw up the economy, then they're like, "Oh, look what capitalism did."
I've heard this 1,000
some new
times.
Redistribute a great reset, which is also a conspiracy theory, but we're also doing it.
Yeah.
We didn't even get into that, but
Oh, that's a 2-hour episode on another day.
Yeah.
That was a
minimum.
real
Yeah, no,
Keynesian economics.
I'd love to do this again. There's a lot more that I'd
Oh,
like
yeah.
to bring a whole
I'm
bunch of
down
links
too.
that I-
Yeah, I've got a
dude,
week
well-
left to break. So
Yeah, well, we only got 2 more sources here to get through, just to wrap it all up here. Okay, so basically, the OECD, who is that? That's the Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development. They say that lockdowns are here to stay, even with a vaccine plan. They say, what's the main thing here? They say that we probably have another 6 to 9 or 12 months ahead of us. Well, it's not saying
6
another
or
2
12.
years. So it's not saying another 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, a decade, 2 decades, a century. Where's the end?
Normal.
It started with 2 weeks, and
What-
now it's already fucking 2021, and they're saying we have a year more of this to look forward to. When does it
Charlie
end?
Brown, I'll hold the football, and you come running up and kick it.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
I've seen this episode.
on the new normal argument. Anyway, does anyone know what normal is in the first place? What's normal? Can anybody answer that?
Normal was all of human history until a year ago.
Exactly.
Becoming
Or until
increasingly
Trump
subjective
got
now.
elected.
It is an increasingly subjective term.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's what I'm trying to get at.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, basically just saying that they're gonna plan, lockdowns, all this shit for years to come, basically, and they know there's higher debt ahead. And we've talked about this. There's basically gonna be a Great Depression from all this. I think even further than the likes of the Great Depression we had here in the U.S. And it's just gonna tear down everything. Like it's gonna really. It is gonna reset what the world is, and it's really scary where we're heading, because they're pushing for all this. They're pushing for such a drastic change so fast that it's.
Well, just read that advertisement on the right. A robot was used for a lockdown couple's marriage proposal.
Like, why, dude?
Automation at work.
Why?
It's alienation. It's almost Marxian alienation. Ironically enough, we're separated, atomized. These people are
The
anti-individualist.
corrosion of
but
humanity. Is
they're-
AI Marxism.
Fuck. They're anti-individualist, but they're anti-communitarian. That's what I've been saying. Individualism and communitarian are not opposites. Individualism and communitarianism together are both opposites of collectivism.
Yeah.
But it's this is heartwarming. I mean, because you guys get this too. I felt pretty alone in this for the last year, but
Yeah.
We all
what do you
do.
think to be done? Something
Yeah.
needs to be done.
It's
What
got-
would you
yeah.
guys say that is?
That's right.
Pushback on all
Starts
this
with
crap.
the household. I mean,
Yeah, starts with the household.
Defend what you believe in. Defend your family from whatever ill outcomes there could be. Yeah, I don't know what the outcome would be. I mean, we gave these people power. We voted them in. I mean, I could give you the simplistic answer and say vote them out, but
Yeah, there's only, obviously, non-violent methods, go through the system, vote,
by the way, a little
volunteer.
a little ad pitch. I think the recall Governor Newsom, it has 1 million signatures, but I still
it's
think it
getting
needs
close.
500,000 for anybody watching who agrees with us. If you want to go,
I'm probably gonna sign that
sign
later this week.
And it's
Yeah,
not impossible.
okay.
The last recall happened in 2003 when Arnold Schwarzenegger got
Right,
in.
it's not
so
impossible
it's
for people.
not
We've done it
impossible.
like 2 or 3 times in
Yeah.
California's history.
Yeah, and that was very recent too. I mean,
And another
Yeah,
ad pitch,
I
if you
wanna-
could sign the Great Barrington
I wanna add to
Declaration
that.
as well, you should look into that.
Yeah, totally. And the Newsom thing, I think it might go through because I think the Democrats, politicians are sharks. They send blood in the water. And I think the Democrats want to get rid of Newsom and replace him with another Democrat rather than risk having him lose to a Republican.
Some
in
other tyrant with a
2024.
goofy haircut.
yeah. I mean, that's probably what's going to happen with California, anyways. Just one-sidedness of everything. It's crazy that Schwarzenegger won back then, but it was a much different political climate. Being a
He's
Republican.
basically a Democrat.
Yeah, basically.
He came out today and he was like, "Well, I'm not gonna do the accent.
Don't
I
do
just
the
I
accent.
don't have the energy." But he pretty much came out and said Trump would be remembered as the worst president that ever.
Who is your daddy and what does he do?
But I think that's pretty much the last one. Other than, I mean, we can get into this. This next one is just saying that lockdowns are going to continue into 2024. Just another.
Why do people have this platform to?
I want to go back to just the other
childish
topic that we were
bullshit?
talking about, Everett, where somebody here asked, what is it that can be done to kind of push back?
Oh
and
right,
kind of
back to
warn
his
us?
question. What can be done?
Yeah, what can be done? One of the last things that should be done, actually, I don't think it will help at all, but going on the internet and bitching about it is probably not going to do anything. So the best thing that you could do to do anything
It's just a guy on a
to try and
podcast.
push back is the power of knowledge. So engaging in the
Educate
pursuit
yourself.
of knowledge, right? You are rejecting the mainstream,
Narrative.
yeah,
Yeah.
a lot of the mainstream narrative, right? And you're doing a lot of that research for yourself. You're just kind of
Moral of the story: Don't worship CNN. Don't worship Fox News. Keep your head off, because I hate to say it, but like my grandparents, they are tuned into CNN all day, and that's
Yeah.
all they hear. Like it could be Fox News too, and totally be the same outcome. But they don't. Sad to say, they don't think for themselves anymore. They hear a narrative and they just accept it. So back to what he was saying, I think you really have to go down that path of seeking knowledge for yourself.
learn a valuable skill.
That too.
Yeah.
Yep. Learn how to farm. Learn how to code.
Acquire a steady sense of financial grounding, right? If you
Exactly.
can, it's really difficult out there, but if you can find your niche, and you can find a stable financial monetary ground, that's definitely I think one of the best things that an individual could probably do.
Yeah.
Right.
So engage in the free market,
Mm-hmm.
which they're trying to destroy.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the reasons I started this podcast is to get information out there, because I feel like a lot of people our age are just not paying attention to the stuff that's going on. And I started this so that I could get information out to my friends who are, more low information, not paying attention all the time.
Mentor others.
But
right?
yeah, exactly.
Be
It's
a positive light in someone's life.
I mean,
just try to tell them.
Teach them to be an effective contributor to society.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah. Just
These
act.
this is all good life advice, but I feel like what we should do with the pandemic. I think it all goes back to pursuit of knowledge. That's the first step. If everyone is enlightened
and they knew what was going on, the science,
Yeah,
for example,
right.
if people knew the science, there would be no reason to be afraid, unless you're older.
If doctors who challenge the status quo weren't censored, maybe people would have more knowledge about these issues. So.
Well, not everyone can be a scientific expert. That's
True.
just part of human nature.
True.
And I'm concerned because the arguments are not hard. Like the stuff about cars, I heard that back in March. It's a good argument, but I made it back in March. Several other people made it back in March.
Yeah.
And the argument against lockdown is not. It's nuanced, but you don't have to be a rocket scientist. It's something that an ordinary person could understand. And it's not getting out there. We're still having the same line shoved down our throats. We must stop the virus.
Mm-hmm.
And that's very discouraging, because if this fairly simple argument can't
spread.
make any headway with the public,
I'm old
even
enough to
in time
remember
of relatively free press, then what can?
Flatten the curb. Remember? You guys old enough to remember that? Flatten the curb.
the
That was like
curb.
5 years ago, remember?
2 weeks to slow the spread. Huh?
Stupid propaganda. Chomsky talks about it. See, that's another way in which the left has abandoned its roots. Chomsky talks about it. Support our troops. What does that even mean? It means nothing. It's not supposed to mean anything. It's supposed to sound good and distract from the real question, which is, do you support this policy?
Yep.
Flatten the curve. It's the sort of bullshit that propaganda departments shove down the public's throats during times of war, except now they're doing it in times of peace as well.
It's a silly tribal slogan.
Yeah, that's all it is.
Most importantly, never stop stressing the importance of your traditional or libertarian values to other people. As a
classical liberal values.
Liberal
that's
values.
what this
Don't
country
stop.
was born on.
Right.
Is liberalism and not
even
not
if you're pushed into a
leftism.
corner,
Liberalism.
even if society pushes you into a corner, never stop stressing the importance of that to your following.
Yeah.
Never. Don't converge.
Yeah. But anyways, I hope we got you guys some good information on all this stuff. I mean, it was very. I've been very emotional, going over all of these. I really hope I put a good idea in. I know some of you guys are more for lockdowns, but I would really implore you guys to look into the ramifications of this.
Please.
And go through these. Go through these that we put up. I don't ever want to live in a place where there's Gestapo checkpoints. Checking people. Seeing if they're essential or not.
The bureaucrats, man.
Yeah.
Think about the long run.
Yeah, but
no human being is non-essential.
Exactly.
When I was canvassing in Georgia, I saw all those little bullshit signs. In this house, we believe Black Lives Matter. Women's rights are human rights. No human being is illegal.
Oh, that montage of
no human being is non-essential.
Yeah. It's all just sloganeering, dude. That's all it is. It goes back to the propaganda stuff that you guys were saying earlier. It's just shit that they're just spewing out to make that just sounds good.
Trivial slogans.
Yeah.
Well, we could totally diverge into another podcast about the importance of words and how leftism uses the control of words in a society, but I think that's
it's all semantics game.
Topic for another day. But
it
is important.
I'm just happy to be here.
Yeah. I know we've almost been going on 2 hours now, but do you have anything else to add, Matt? A little.
No, just glad that you're doing this. Glad you're talking about it. I mean, just this right here, even though we definitely all splinter off a little bit on what we think, we're not at arms with each other, and we're doing it in a better way. Storming the Capitol or establishing our own city, I think this is on the right path. And even if we find out we're wrong, that'll still be beneficial to everyone.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, no, this
Even
is what needs to happen
side.
on a large scale. People need to have these discussions on a large scale. Because like we were talking about earlier in the episode, if we can't talk, we can only fight.
Exactly.
Don't be afraid to be on the losing side if you know that it's right.
But I think we'll end it there. We're almost going on 2 hours here. So we'll sign off. Thanks for watching. It was great having y'all.
Not for you.
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, no problem, man. I would definitely like to have you on more, dude. Because as long as we don't get zucked, we're going to keep going. So.
Yeah.
Oh, That's inevitable.
Yeah,
But
yeah. But yeah, we'll see. All right, well, have a good day, guys. Thanks for tuning in, and
See you next time.
yeah, see you next time.